Joining us now is the legendary head coach in South Florida. He's the 25th season. He's been at the helm since 1997. Won his 1,000th game last year. Was recently inducted into the Tampa Club Sports Hall of Fame. You know pretty well. Speaking of Ken Eriksen, back with us here on In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
Good, Eric. How are you, man?
Pretty good. I want to ask you, what is it like for you right now? Ever since I've known you, you're used to wearing multiple hats, running Team USA and USF. Now you're just
Yeah,
running USF. How is it
yeah.
for you just worrying, running one thing now?
Well, I think it's simple enough to say that every head coach understands that whether you're with two teams or one team, you're still involved 100% of the time in what your task is of the day. So every Division One coach, every Division Two, any coach that's coaching at college, you realize that your responsibilities are not just to yourself, but to the 28 other players and your coaches and this and that. So the only difference is instead of an 18-hour day, you're basically on a 14-hour day. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest difference, and it gives me actually more time to be a little bit more detail oriented with Team USF right now, and been very very fortunate to have Jess Moore, Tommy Santiago, Laura Ricciardoni that were our assistant coaches during the time in the last 5 years specifically that were very very busy, that allowed me the freedom, plus my wife's uh, um, allowing me to pursue those type of things also. But I've had some really good support. But right now, I'm trying to pay them back. And Coach Santiago, him and his wife just had a baby, so I'm telling him to spend more time at home. And Coach Carla Claudio Rivera, who joined us when Jess went to Denmark, she just had a baby, so I'm telling him to spend more time at home. And they're very, very fortunate to pick up Lisa Navis as our volunteer assistant coach. And Lisa's got head coaching experience, assistant coaching experience. So her and I have been doing a little bit of work together to get us back to where we were. And I feel like we're moving in the right direction. But Eric, you're right. I actually am sleeping in another hour and a half every day
Nice.
just to relax a little bit. But it was a good time. It was a good time, no doubt.
Was it strange at first not having all those obligations? Was like, how long did it get you used to, like you said, your new schedule, if you will?
Well, I kind of got my first taste of it 2 weeks into the after post Olympics, 3 weeks at post Olympics, when my wife said, "Aren't you supposed to be on the road again? You know, you're bugging me too much. You're home too much. You're doing too much stuff right here." So I think it took a little bit of time just to make that adjustment of I'm not looking on the next Friday to get on another airplane. I will say this, that it's a lot easier now to wake up in the middle of the night if I have to go to the restroom, that I know the direction of the restroom. Because when you're on the road with Team USA, you wake up in a hotel and you make the wrong move and you're in a closet instead of the bathroom. You know what I mean? So being on the road that much and not knowing where you wake up sometimes and the craziness of it all, I don't miss that part whatsoever. And you always miss the people, right? The competition is competition, whether it's the Olympics or whether it's college. But there's certain people you actually miss being around, and you hope you stay in contact with them.
Heather Tarr in the USA press conference went out of her way to thank you for everything you've done for Team USA and for her as well, and some of the players as well. People from Team USA have, celebrated you. How does that make you feel that people kind of appreciate what you've done for the U.S. national team over the years?
Well, it's pretty cool. The one thing I will tell you is that Coach Tarr is the right person for this job right now. Class act, one of the most knowledgeable people that I know in the game right now, in the present state of the game, has a great rapport with whatever gamut the age groups are with USA softball. She's able to relate that. You got to remember too, she played. And so anytime that you have played fast pitch softball, the nuances and played the level of softball she did, it's a little easier to claim legitimacy in respect of having to talk to the players through certain things. There's a lot of coaches that are great coaches in college, but they never played at that level. And so for her, it's a little bit easier, in my opinion, that she's able to relate that. And you see that on the field. She did a great job as an assistant coach, as Laura Berg did. as Tariah Flowers did, and to have a guy like Howard around, that has a really good understanding of the game. That was a pretty good coaching staff. It was probably one of the strongest coaching staffs I've been involved with for a long, long time. But Coach Starr, well deserving of it. She's got a great finger on the pulse of the youth movement coming up to the college ranks right now. And she's got a great idea of context and history of some of the players that played in the past. So I'm looking forward to some exciting things, and hopefully she stays with it, because I think continuity is a huge deal in getting to the 28 Olympics. She's already been in Olympics, so she knows the routines of what goes on, and she knows what it takes. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that I know her, and I'm very proud of the fact that the committee gave her an opportunity to continue on.
Speaking of youth, let's talk about your team this upcoming season. A lot of youth on your roster there. A lot of freshmen, true freshmen, and redshirt freshmen on your roster. Obviously, the extra year with COVID plays some into that, but a pretty young roster of your team. How has the fall gone with you? And as you mentioned, you've got a new volunteer coach, Lisa Novice, new assistant, and Carla Claudia Rivera, former player. How has the fall gone from that standpoint?
I thought it went extremely well. I thought it was very efficient, very effective. I thought we did some really, really good things in a short period of time. And it was really, we didn't really get a chance to play fall ball the year before. So for us to jump ahead of that right now, I thought we did a nice job of getting back on track of what we're trying to do as a group. And now, for everybody that's coaching Division I, there's at least a defined schedule coming up right now, and people, I hope they don't forget the simple aspect of, even when we started last year in February of 21, we had no idea we were going to play each day. We had no idea that we were going to play the next weekend, and teams had to cancel because of budgets. Team had to cancel because of COVID. And then you could pick up teams that were just down in the area, so we all mishmashed it together. Every coach in college last year deserves a medal, in my opinion, because they had to mishmash a lot of scheduling together. They had to mishmash a lot of competitions together. They had moving pieces in their team rosters because of COVID through the year. Last year was a really, really special year, and you found out that baseball and softball are probably the two most adaptable sports going in college. Number one, we're used to rainouts, right? Okay, so for us, delays aren't a big deal, but there's more flexibility and adaptability in our sports, I think, than the other sports. And I thought you saw that last year, and you got to commend every coach that had a program that kept everything under wraps.
It really was unique, and just adapting to everything. You got into the NCAA tournament and you made noise. You got all the way to the regional final. How does that run help the returners, especially in the pitching staff, where you've got a lot of experience coming back, as we'll talk about, help you to this year making that run in Gainesville?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I think you'd be foolish not to put the responsibility on the players and the coaching staff, that they would be irresponsible if you didn't continue to elevate your aspirations, or you didn't elevate your expectations, okay, that you can get to certain levels against good programs. And, our schedule is a really good schedule every single year, and we prepare for that postseason. But, we were this close away from getting to the super regionals, and that was a good thing. And I think there was a lot of positivity that came out of that. I thought that number 22 in the circle showed tremendous leadership at the end of the year, in her end of the year kind of synopsis conversation with her teammates. Like, hey, next year, this is where you're at. This is where our aspirations are. And this is what we're starting to work on today. And that was the day after we lost out at the super regionals. It's a good team. But, by and large, Eric, anytime that you can use the experience of young people, and I think we started like 3 true freshmen last year in the postseason. Anytime that you can get that type of experience in those people's hands going into the next year, it just carries over enthusiasm wise. And I think we've seen that already. And I think that, without going back and dating myself with the old movies, like, hey, on the back of the windshields or the back of the cars going down to Florida was, hey, Florida or bust, going to the state of Florida for spring break. I think, our soaped up window basically says, NCAA postseason deep or bust. So, yeah, let's find that team right now.
I remember when I talked to you last year, you even said that, you're riding Georgina's back, riding this team. She's taking this team on her back and running as far as she can. It was incredible what she did, especially such a unique schedule in conference play. It was a 4-game schedule, and yet
Yep.
she was. Every time I watch her, I love watching her play from the standpoint. I feel like she's the old school player. I feel like she will argue with you if you don't give her the ball every game. You've coached so many great pitchers at USF and internationally. I think of Sarah Nevins, obviously, that jumps to mind, a Hall of Famer at USF there. You think of a Monica Trainer, and the list goes on in international. What makes her so unique in there? Because she's right up there now with all those greats.
You're right on. You're spot on. Number one, and Monica Trainer, Leanne Ellis,
Yep.
Erica Nunn, right? Georgina Korick, Kat Osterman, Monica Abbott, Ali Carta, Lisa Fernandez. Yeah, they'd argue and I want the ball. Give me the ball. Don't take the ball out of my hand. I'll never forget times I went out to get the ball from Erica Nunn or Leanne Ellis. And, I was like, I'm not giving the ball up. Give me the ball. These guys were competitive. And George is that way also. I can tell you one thing, that when I walk out to the mound, I've got a coach in the circle already that I'm not really actually talking to her about her pitching out there, right? We're basically discussing how we're going to go defensively at this hitter and what to expect. Okay. And then, so that's really cool that you have that type of coach in the circle that you don't have to worry about. She's got a great head on her shoulders, probably one of the smartest pitchers I've ever coached in college. And then you'll see her after college continue on in the international scene because she's that good. Okay, not just here, but she's that good here too, right? So, what a great combination. And yeah, she falls into that stable of great ones that we've had, and they're all nationally renowned. Every one of them was an All-American, and so we've been very fortunate to continue on with that here. And she is actually becoming a mentor towards a lot of the young guys that we have here that you'll see flower and blossom in the next couple of years.
Did you see this coming when you recruited her? Obviously, you thought she would be good. You recruited her for a reason.
Yes.
This good?
Yes. It's interesting you said that. So the first time I saw this kid pitch, I went to her travel coach and I'm like, hey, where's that guy going? He says, what do you mean, where's she going? She's 13 and a half, 14 years old. I go, what? She was pitching like a woman at that age in respect of her demeanor. But she also played like a little girl. You know what I mean? She was like so enthusiastic to hit, run, not just pitch and play. But you saw a different level of going after hitters, a different analytical level of going after hitters, not just with velocity, but like, how can I dominate this hitter, on both sides of the plate, changing speeds, changing zones. This young woman had a plan, earlier than I've ever seen anybody else have a plan before. So it was pretty special. So yeah, the answer is yes. There's no bones about it. Look, if you think that I brought this kid or you think that we brought this kid to a different level, the only thing that we've given her is information. She has taken it all and she's made herself who she is today.
You obviously played for the great national Great Britain team. Do you see coaching in her future? It sounds like, because you've talked about many times about her knowing the game, thinking the game, and that you even let her and Josie Foreman, your catcher, kind of basically run the game. Did you see coaching in her future? Is that something you would like to do?
If she ever wanted to do that, and I know she wants to stay involved in the game in some capacity, right? But I think at some point, Eric, you and I are going to be working for her, and then whatever job she decides to do, that's how smart she is, right? She's first team academic All-American also, right? So this guy has got something upstairs. But if she ever wanted to stay in the game and continue to pass on knowledge to the young players, that's invaluable information. This woman not just has pitched for University of South Florida against some of the best teams in the country. You got to remember something. She's thrown against Japan, held them scoreless for 5 minutes. She's pitched against Australia. She's pitched against Canada at age 16 years old in the World Championships. So she's been around the international game a long time, and she almost single-handedly brought Great Britain to the Olympics. In 2021, Italy got them at the end, but she's that good. She's that good.
Yeah, one game away, and you might have had to deal with her in the Olympics.
Hey, which was no easy task because during the summertime, she pitched against us twice. And the last time she threw against us, she held us scoreless for 6 innings. So, yeah, no, I don't want any part of her in international ball.
No, I don't think many do. You You bring a lot of pitchers back bring back from experience from last year with Pond and Doby, but you also bring in Aaron Pepping from ECU, who has experience in league play, and you have a freshman in Peyton Dixon. I feel like this is the deepest staff you've had a little while here. Is that accurate? How do you feel about the rest of the arms here?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm sleeping a lot better at night, and it was interesting that we're at the end of last year, we knew we were getting freshman Dixon in, and we knew that Dolby was going to come back after a year recovery of surgery. Last year was her recovery year. She had arm surgery before that, shoulder surgery. She's throwing the ball extremely well. So we knew we were going to be a little bit deeper, but when we picked up Pepping, who was a competitor, is a Lionheart, for ECU when you watched her throw. And then we got Antoinette Hill, a drop-ball pitcher out of Purdue, and she's got 4 years of eligibility left. So this is the strongest or deepest staff that we've had. And then we have other young guys, Lexi Kopko and Maddie Gardner, who can throw it too, that they're coming along. So, yeah, we've got some options. And anybody that has followed South Florida pitching or playing in the past knows that I don't burn pitchers out, especially earlier in the year, and Georgina Kirk will be on kind of a governor of how long she goes in games 1, 3, 5, whatever she's got. But we're not going to go out and throw a guy, 135, 140 pitches, 150 pitches, probably not even going to get over 100 pitches, early in February, because to me, you don't win a national championship in early February, but you got to have strong arms at the end. And what you saw George do in the last month of the year, last year, was because she wasn't burned out early on. Okay. And so it's the bulk of her innings is when the weather warmed up. And so we're not going to put her in any type of position, or anybody in any type of position, to burn out in February.
No, and with the depth that you have in arms here, you've got a lot of options. You can go matchups. You can go into the bullpen. I mean, I've told you were one of the first to use the, quote, bullpen in softball before people were using it. Now it's become more common. But you can go in a lot of different directions, and I would imagine it allows you, for example, Peyton Dixon, you don't have to rush her in. She can kind of observe and learn. You don't have to throw her into the wolves if she's not ready.
No, I agree with you. We did the same thing with Sarah Nevins, Lindsey Richardson, Erica Nunn. Did the same thing with George Quirk. So yeah, I think that's still part of the player development process. And I got a really interesting phone call a couple of years back from Lou Harris, and Lou was like, "Hey Ken, I know that you do this. Talk to me about it." And so you have a lot of coaches call up and go, "How do you utilize these type of things?" And I think what you start to see also is when you have some baseball guys make that transition into fast pitch softball, and Tim Walton's a good example of this also, is that you're more inclined to understand what a bullpen can do for you. And then you have old school fast pitch softball people that, hey, look, I got one guy and I'm riding him out. Well, today, I don't know if that's so smart, because the hitters are really good. Okay. And the pitchers are stronger and bigger. And so do you really want to throw them 140, 150 early in the year? So you have to balance it out between, physically what's smart, emotionally what's smart, career oriented what's smart, what's good for your team. But I see too much of not developing a staff and riding one person that at the end of the year, somebody's going to burn out. Okay. Somebody could look really, really stellar in February, but come April, May, they're done. They already got 300 innings in and they're done, and the false thing about, pitching is easier with a circle than it is throwing baseball overhand is a fallacy. The recovery time's quicker, but the wear and tear is just as much, if not more.
Especially where, Coach Walton we had on the show said there's so much more now advanced analytics in the game of softball like there is in baseball. He uses it. He says he's admitted he uses openers from time to time, goes matchups. I would imagine that makes it more challenging for a pitcher as well, with all the advanced analytics and information that's out there.
There is. I think we can get overuse of the analytics. There's no question, but there are certain things. Look, I will tell you this, when it comes down to it, if you ask Tim, what's he feel in his guts? He's going to go with what he feels in his guts with the information that he has. Okay. Let's not poo-poo the information either, but it also comes down to how that guy's throwing that day. Okay. What the matchups are that day, and so every day is different. That's the beautiful part about our game. The analytics are great, but let's not get caught up too much in them to decide what the ultimate outcome is.
Let's talk about your skill position players. I would imagine Josie Foreman comes to mind. I remember you spoke during about her in the regionals after the no hitter with Cork, and that even though she's was a young player, she's like one of the leaders in the as a catcher. Just talk about her value to your team.
Yeah, well, how many freshmen have caught 4 no hitters in 1 year? Yeah, against good competition, and then catch a no hitter in the postseason against a team like Baylor, right? So she's got something going really, really well with George Corrick, and I saw her mature tremendously in the last year, and we force fed her a little bit because we really were struggling behind the plate, as far as being healthy. But she really stepped up in a big way, and she's even more mature now after a great fall. And then she's got 2 young catchers behind her, in Emma Humplick out of Texas and Lydia Castro out of the Tampa Bay area. They're quite good, and they hit the ball really well also. So you might see all 3 in a lineup at one time, but these are young guys, but they've got experience, and they played against good schedules. Our middle infield right now is starting to take shape with Megan Piero at second base and Alana Rivera at shortstop. So it's good to see that up the middle. We're real strong, and we got, Anna Bruni did a heck of a job the last, 5 years for us in center field. Was a great athlete, but we have a young lady right now, Jordan Cadlub, who is the same type of body type, same type of athlete as Anna Bruni, and she's a sophomore, and she's right about the same place Anna was as a sophomore. So I'm looking for good things up the middle from her, and we have some veterans coming back, and Megan Sheehan, who was off a knee injury, and she's done really well, and Lexi Johns was our leadoff guy last year. She's doing really well. So I'm excited to see, come February 10th, how we line up against teams with different colors.
Your program's always been big on development.
Yes.
There might be a player that, going into a year doesn't have a ton of experience at bats or games, but they step up into the role once that role expands. Just talk about the importance of development, especially in your program.
It's huge. It's so interesting. And this too, like at the beginning of the year, and even during the evaluation parts, we're never mentioned in like, oh, that's a top, 20 recruiting class. Even the unbelievable class we had that graduated in 2011 from high school that moved into college, with Savarola, Medina, Nevins, the Goff sisters. It was one heck of a recruiting class. And I'd said it was a top 10 class, and they proved it. But we don't get that type of information passed on to whoever is doing all these evaluations. And we never in the beginning of the year kind of get, there's a top 30 vote, but we're always there at the end. It's always at the dance at the end. And I want to say it's because we don't have players that we traditionally don't go after what is considered a powerhouse travel ball program, right? We go after players that fit our system, athletes that can get better over time, athletes that don't need me to motivate them to come out to the field, right? That they really love the game and they're buying into a high level of instruction of player development. And we see it all the time. And at the end of their 4 years, one of the best compliments we got was from probably, I think it was Christy Breadbrenner at Wichita State, was like, you mean that kid's still there another year? So that says they were impactful from the beginning. So that's a pretty good compliment. But we take pride in learning the game.
Of the freshmen you've had come in, who has stood out there that you think will contribute a lot? You're going to need some of those freshmen to step up to contribute this year for your success. You've got some good talent coming in. How have they looked, and who stands out?
Well, the 2 catchers that I mentioned in Castro and Humplick, absolutely, you'll see them. And Julia Morocco, infielder that can play second, short, and third. She's done well. Lauren Beavis out of Jacksonville is carries a pretty big stick that way. And then obviously Dixon, I think you'll start to see fall into place a little bit. But I'd be remiss to not to mention that Tylee Vaughn, who was a junior national team player for us, she had a leg injury in the fall. She's rehabbing. She'll be back next year, but she adds a big dimension to us going forward in the future. But yeah, I mean, it'll be exciting. I mean, I feel once again that when you watch us play, specifically in the beginning of the year, you're going to think we're running a basketball team, with players 6, 7, 8, 9 going in and out. So yeah, we'll utilize the lineup the best we can to kind of throw a whole bunch of speed and a whole bunch of different looks at people during games.
You mentioned obviously Georgina as being one of the leaders. What are some of the other leaders you have, or is that still evolving? And do you have vocal leaders, or is it more of leadership by example?
I've never named a captain. I only believe that there's one captain that runs the ship, and that way it makes it easier to go on. But we do have some really strong personalities that really buy into team play. And I think because of the environment that's been created in the past, you've seen that passed on and on and on. And so right now you have the veteran voices that are like, hey, this is the way we do it here on and off the field. This is the way we do it in the classroom. And for us, there's pride in winning as much as we can on every aspect of it. And a team that's consistently right now at a 3.57 to 3.62 GPA with 28 to 30 players, says something about their commitment to what they truly believe is important. And then on the field, the aspect of, once again, the veteran leadership and the voices coming from, Georgina Korick, Maddie Epperson, Megan Sheehan, and then somebody coming in like an Aaron Pepping that goes, hey, listen, you guys realize what a great environment you have here, and so those type of things get passed down to the young guys, and it is a good environment. It doesn't matter if you're a fifth-year senior or a first-year freshman. Everybody's treated equally here. So that's been one of the biggest things that we've done and kept up with.
What's it been like to have Carla back and having her on the staff?
Well, somebody that's been there, okay, in college that understands that, right? And somebody that also came in as a transfer from Santa Fe Community College relates to people that are coming in transfers, okay? And then the other aspect of it is, one of the best players in the world, plays team Puerto Rico, pitches, plays first base, is a slugger, that once again, they just missed out getting to the Olympics also, but Carla has played professionally in Italy. So she's got a great understanding of not just here, but prior to here and then after here. So she's related really, really well to the players. And I'm so happy she's back. She's been a big part of our program here for a long time. And just to have somebody with that type of smarts, number one, but ability, legitimate ability, goes a long way with young women.
And then to have someone with the credentials of Lisa Novice to help on your staff as well. How did that one come about, to have her help you out as well as a volunteer?
That goes back to deep friendships and admiration from not just myself, but also she knows Tommy Santiago really, really well. Okay. And Coach Santiago, he gets along with everybody. So the aspect of putting those three people together, as your lead staff, and then having, GAs come in that were here, that understand the game. And, we're very, very fortunate right now to have that type of stuff. But Lisa, what she brings, obviously, head coaching experience in college, assistant coaching experience in college, and she also played. So once again, the legitimacy of having people on staff that played, to me, is a big deal. And then once again, there's no substitute for experience.
Last year, you won your 1,000th game. You've been honored this offseason. You got inducted into the Hall of Fame in the Tampa Club Sports Hall of Fame, which is saying something. There's a lot of great athletes in the Tampa area. But I think it's kind of been long overdue. I mean, you've had people, I don't know if people realize, you had a great baseball career at USF. You were part of the first NCAA tournament team for baseball, I believe, 1982, Coral Gables Regional. You were a two-way player. What has it been like, first of all, to be kind of honored there this offseason there in your backyard, their city there?
Well, obviously there wasn't a lot of candidates up for the Hall of Fame, here for that. Probably does because of COVID. No, it's special. Our 40-year anniversary to that 1982 team is coming up here pretty shortly. And, I was fortunate enough to be able to play 7 positions in baseball at USF. And so there was always a place for me to play. And then when I went over to fast pitch softball, I played all 9 positions, so it was really, really cool to get taught the game as a young person. That doesn't really matter where you're out on the field. You got a glove, you got to catch the ball and make the play, right? So it doesn't really matter, but there's too much specialization that goes on right now. And I think because of that, you limit opportunities, right? So for me, I created opportunities by being able to play other spots. And it's a really, really cool honor to come here and move to Tampa in 1979 and stay here ever since, and then be recognized by basically, this is my hometown, to be involved in that Sports Hall of Fame with some people. Obviously, you got some incredible athletes in there, but it was pretty humbling, to tell you the truth. I mean, and really to this day, I'm still amazed when I take a look of the roster of those deals. And I think Eric, sometimes, and truthfully speaking, right, you don't get recognized for those things unless you've been around a long time. And people say that, but don't poo-poo the fact that there's a reason sometimes you're around a long time. You've surrounded yourself with really, really good people. Okay, they've made it easier for you to stick around and be successful. And I think that's probably the biggest deal right now is understanding that at a young age. Like, you're not going to be able to do this for a long time and be successful unless you surround yourself with great people. And I think that was the first thing I ever did.
You mentioned all the different positions you played as a baseball player. You were a two-way, you could pitch, you could hit, play a bunch of different positions. How much of that helped you as you got into coaching and being able to adapt? Because you've always been able to adapt, whether it be the U.S. international rules, a 15-person roster, a full staff, a limited staff, a staff, an experienced team, an inexperienced team, an offensive team. How much of that flexibility you showed as a player has helped you as a coach?
Tremendous. I think it lends legitimacy when you're conversing with the players, because then they go, oh yeah, I feel that too, or oh yeah, I can see what's going on there. And also to the simple fact too, look, I'm not a genius, and there's nobody out there that knows the game more than the game. Okay, because the game is still the game. And you hear this conversed about by a lot of coaches, and I don't know if everybody realizes that look, the coaches that are coaching right now in 25, 30 years, they're not going to be coaching anymore, but the game is still going to go on. And the people that you teach or pass on the messages that we were passed on 30, 40, 50 years ago, they're still relevant today. This is not rocket science when it comes to playing the game. It's still a game of catch and throw, run your butt off, make a left 3 times and you're home, right? It's really that simple. Now it's about, can you coordinate personnel for the same objectives? Okay, and if that's the case, you're beginning to manage people and manage relationships. Okay, because sometimes it's not about getting the best 18 players, but it's about getting, the 18 best. Okay, that can fit in your organization, that fit into your philosophy of what goes on, and then identifying who you are. And I think that's the biggest deal. But when you bring people together, in our game, you need people. Our game is social. You need each other. And there's too much out there in the showcase games, and there's too much out there in self-promotion, that some players have a really, really tough time when they get to an organization to meld into what those philosophies are. Okay, so once again, I think if we understand that it's a game that you need people, it's a game that is done in a socialistic sense, I think you got a better chance.
Of course, the American Conference, I was really impressed last year going through the regionals and how you all kind of rooted for each other. Like, I would be at a Zoom meeting in Norman with Christy Breadbender, and off the air she would ask me, hey, how's South Florida and UCF doing? Coach Ball Malone was in Tallahassee. She would ask me off the air, hey, how is South Florida doing in Gainesville? How's Wichita doing in Oklahoma? Did they beat Oklahoma because they were beating them and all that? I know you would ask me after in Gainesville. Talk about that bond in the league and that pride, because you all played with a chip on the shoulder from the standpoint, Coach Breadbender, from an underseeded standpoint, a respect standpoint, you all kind of stuck together. It's super competitive when you play each other, but you support each other when you're outside, like in the NCAA tournament.
Well, that's really cool that you recognize that. Yeah, we were actually texting each other also, during that time. And but that goes even deeper too. Like, if Memphis is playing someplace or East Carolina was playing someplace, and I think you have a really mature programmatic sense of what goes on. And sometimes when we get on conference calls, there's differences of opinion about how we want to either run the season or how we want to do this and that. But at the end of the day, we all go, okay, if that's the case right now, and that's the majority, then we're all sticking to that. And we do have a lot of pride in our conference, and it's really, really sad to see, in actuality, that Cindy's leaving and Kristen's leaving, Houston and UCF, really, really good people, really good for the sport, really good in our conference. But we get the business aspect of football, and we all understand those type of things. But we're just hoping right now that when you bring in a new conference opponents, a conference team, that they have the same understanding of that we're all doing this together. We're trying to make our conference a strong conference, outside competition, working inside. to do those type of things. And from all sounds of it, from everybody I've spoke to so far, it sounds like, Shane over at ECU and Joe at UAB. And I'm learning the other names of the people that I don't know yet, but being on the conference call with them, with Charlotte and UTSA, so far, it seems like everybody's got a great demeanor of the game, and the game overrides any type of personalities that people have. And I think one of those type of deals also, Eric, and you know this as well as I do, that, there's a war on I-4 type of deal that's supposed to be between USF and UCF, and the colors are different. I hate to tell everybody this, but like Cindy and I are really good friends, and then our guys at USF are really good friends with you guys at UCF. Yeah, we battle each other during the games, right? But when the games are over, man, it's not unheard of to see somebody, at the dinner with somebody else, or, hugging their kids or meeting their family. That's just the way the game is. And that's the way I've been used to playing it. It's amazing to me that still there's personalities that if you beat somebody, they hate you. I mean, what? It's your players. You're, doing your players against their players. And you're just trying to prepare your team to play the game as best they can and what the game presents itself. But I don't know. I'm beyond the colors against colors type stuff.
Yeah, no, and Coach, Sydney has mentioned that too, and he's in it when she's been on the show, that you've been one of the people that's helped her from an advice standpoint, like especially going back to when she was part of the U.S. under-19 staff, and that she would pick your brain about the international game and things like that. And that's, I think fans don't get that there's a fraternity inside there from coaches, and there's a respect there. That yes, you play competitive on the field, but there's a competitive side, and there's also a side where you all help each other out from a coaching industry.
No doubt. Look, we're trying to make the game better, and to me, selfishly, during that time, 20, 25 past years, if we can make the game better, then the U.S. national team gets better, right? And so then the pro game gets better. And the pro game really can be an ambassador in respect of promoting the game during the summertime when the college game is not playing, and vice versa. The college game could promote the pro game during the spring when the pros aren't playing. So, and the other point too is this: I have a lot of respect for Cindy. She played. You know what I mean? So there's always a bond when you've played at a level, whether it's the guys or the gals that played with the national team program or the women's majors or Division I college softball. There's a respect because the game is a tough game to play, and anybody that can continue on and do the things that she's done, you got to respect tremendously. So yeah, she's good stuff, and she's going to do great if she decides to stay in the USA program too.
And she gave you credit helping her last year. And again, it goes back to what everybody helping each other last year with everything going on with the unstable, the uniqueness of the season. She gave you credit for helping her get Arizona to play them, because you were to host them, and Mike Candrea was looking for games, and you said, hey, why don't you call Sydney at UCF and play the game there? I don't know if Mike thanked you after they lost that game, so he may not do that, but I wanted to ask you, what's it going to be like for your friend, no longer coaching active, Mike Candrea? He's still going to be involved in the game, but he announced obviously retired after the World Series. What was your reaction to all that? And you got to face him and see him one last time last year. And I remember USF did a great job. Jim Lauk basically let you and Mike just talk about softball. I thought it was one of the great features out there that people could find. But what was that like for you to see him step away?
Well, he's old, and it's really about time. He's got too much golf to play the rest of his life. No, the guy. The first time I met him in 1986, we kind of hit it off a little bit through respect of what was going on, and we talked about the game. And we both came over from baseball, and both transitioned into fast pitch softball, coaching wise. And then I was playing also at the time, and so he was always picking my brain. And it's been a great conversation, a class conversation the whole time, and he'll still talk about it, and I'll still talk about it too. He offered me the job out there as an assistant coach when I was transitioning here from assistant coach to head coach, and I turned him down. He told me I was an idiot because he had 5 more national championships to win, which he did. But I took the job at USF, and things worked out great, because if I didn't take the job here and I took the job there, I wouldn't have been able to coach with him with USA softball. And some of the best times I've ever had as a coach and relating to a coaching staff were the years that Coach Candrea, John Rittman, myself, Hector Torres, Ronnie Isom were hanging out together, with that great team, a 2004 team. It was incredible. Just think about all the Hall of Famers that came off of that team, right? And the one thing that Mike taught Johnny and I during that time was less is more. When you have great athletes like that, let's just keep the information pertinent. Okay, these guys already know what they're doing. And I think that's really when the philosophy started to take a look. And I think all three of us did it anyway, but it was just a really good reminder that, okay, what are you going to do with Crystal Bustos? You're going to change her? Yeah. And so it's not about coaching and changing people. It's about cultivating what they do really, really well and let them do it over and over and over and over again, and then work together as a unit. That was a big deal. And then relationships, that's what he taught us also. It's about the trust and the care and the love and all those type of things. And I think that's why John and I have been in the game a long, long time too, and decently successful at wherever he's gone. And I'd like to think we were decently successful at what we're doing here. But when Mike announced his retirement, he had already told me the year before that he was retiring and that he only wanted to coach one more season and that they were going to open up their new stadium in Arizona. And he wanted us to be out there, which I thought was a tremendous, like, hey, Kenny, come on out and celebrate the new thing that we just built. It just so happened that it got down to the first game that Arizona played in that ballpark was against us, and George threw lights out that night. And as we're going through the handshake line and we had won the game, I was like dreading to get to the end of the handshake line because I kind of realized that there wasn't going to be like, what do I say? Like, hey, Mike, I'm really sorry about winning on opening night. And before I could say anything, he basically told me in so many words what he thought. And then but that's the way he is. We have tremendous respect for each other, and we can kid with each other. But if Mike ever called me up, wherever he is in the world, and he knows the same thing, I do the same thing. I would come in an airplane. I know he would do the same thing for me. And there's a tremendous bond and respect there, a real family type of situation. So, yeah, it's sad that he's not going to be involved on a daily basis with the coaching, but his impact throughout the game of softball will be felt for a long, long time. And when he speaks, you listen, because he doesn't say a lot, but when he says something, you want to listen.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll still be hearing him. I feel like he said he's still got strong opinions on how to help the game, improve the game. And so that'll be exciting there. A couple last things. You just signed an extension through 2026. That was announced by the school. And I can even hear it in your voice and even talking to you. You're still having fun with this. You've still got a lot left in the tank, don't you? You're having as much fun now as you did maybe 25 years ago when you took over the program.
I love the game. I was either going to be involved in baseball or softball at some point because the game is incredible when it comes to teaching life lessons. It's also incredible that when you see successes happen for these young people on the field, that's tremendous. But somebody asked me, and I think you and I have had this conversation before, does it ever get to you? I'm like, okay, does what ever get to me? And some people, they really live and die with the win and the loss. Yeah, and to me, I've never worried about the scoreboard. Okay. I worry about us playing well because the game lies. The scoreboard lies, rather, not the game. The scoreboard lies, right? You could play really, really well and end up on the short side of the score. You could play like crap and get a W. I'm really looking forward to, can we be as perfect as we can be in practice? Okay. And can we play a perfect game? And that's what you're always aspiring to do. But I'm not worried about the totals. I'm worried about, are we teaching the game? Is the game successful? Is this team representing the game? And if they do, they got a good shot. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I love teaching. I don't ever worry about the W or the L. And here's something else that's really kept me probably in a positive sense, Eric. I don't have social media.
I've noticed, yes. You're smart. You're smarter than us on that.
So, it's great because like Howard, when he's with us, Howard he's so involved with social media, and Howard's very protective of the people around him, and he get really PO'd, when there's things out there criticizing whatever we were doing. And I'm like, Howard, you know what? It's too bad that all those people don't know me like you know me. And he goes, yeah, I know. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, you don't give a crap. I go, exactly. And until somebody figures that out, they're going to waste their breath in the whole deal. But look, if you got to hide behind the cowardice of all those type of things, and you're using social media to cut down 18 and 20-year-old kids, you got a problem, man. And instead of the respect of how tough this game is, because I've never seen anybody that's on social media walk up to the batter's box and face 88 miles an hour coming at you from Pete Meredith from only 46 feet away. All right, that'll give you a different perspective of who actually has the guts and the heart for this game and who doesn't. And that's why I respect everybody that's ever played the game at a very high level. It takes a lot of guts to play this game, regardless of the level of Division I, men's majors, international ball. Those people are special to me. If you're just a talker and you don't play the game, it's really tough for me to respect you.
You obviously honor the past. You always celebrate the past and achievements of your players and teams. And obviously this year, I believe it's the 10-year anniversary of your 2012 team that got to OKC. I'm not going to say to spill the beans on how you're going to celebrate that team or honor them this year, but when you think of that 2012 team, what comes to mind?
Dancing. This team danced. I mean, this team came out in that fall, and they had Jess Mouse come in and transfer to USF Softball, who was the last piece of the puzzle for us as far as leadership and how things were going to do it. She worked from day one, and everybody followed Jess Mouse's work ethic every single day. And then you had workers that made it even more impactful, like Stephanie Medina and Courtney Salvarola and Alexis Knoll. And then we had a kid behind a plate who was our shortstop, but we had so many injuries behind the catching gear that Laura Fountain said, "I'll catch." Okay. And she was like the battered and bruised lineman in football. Every day she's walking off and limping with foul balls here, foul balls there, fingers were, but she hung in there and caught for us. And then we had an outfield that was phenomenal. But these guys were really, really tight. They were really, really tight. They knew they had a chance, but nobody was giving them credit. And so from day one, okay, they had a chip on their shoulder, you know, and I'll never forget Lindsey Richardson, you know, a pitcher for us. She was a tough guy, and she was really, really good. Obviously, when Sarah Nevins got a lot of the credit, but we had one kid that we got thrown at. Savarola got thrown at on purpose, right? She had hit 2 home runs, and then we're playing a team. I'm not going to mention who the team was, and team hits Savarola right in the head, you know, after her third at bat. And then Lindsey Richardson had a perfect game going in the 6th inning. Well, I don't know if it was on purpose, right? But Lindsey had pinpoint control. Well, first batter up that inning just took one square in the back. Okay. And then, you know, the team is like, yeah, I'm not sure if Lindsey did it on purpose or not. But after the game, I said, "Lindsey, you know, you had a perfect game going on. One get away." And she looked at me and went, "No." And that's all. I'm like, okay, I'm not asking any more questions. But so this team had each other's back. Okay. This was a really, really tight unit. This was a gang. And Mouse was the leader of the gang, and then you had other people falling into place, and it was pretty special. It was really, really special.
How much do you talk about the success of the past teams and players of your program to the current players? You know, I've been to your stadium. I see it. It's all over the place. You showcase it very well in the stadium. You have a wall. You honor you have like a softball Hall of Fame Ring of Honor, if you will, section there. How much of that do you bring up to your players of, you know, representing what who they're representing?
Every day. Every day. This is how we do it. Okay. There's a reason that there's a name up there. There's a reason those numbers are up there. Okay. You know, nobody's going to remember that who was the leading hitter at USF in 2012. Nobody knows that batting average. Nobody knows how many strikeouts Sarah Nevins had. Nobody knows all that stuff. Right. But they do know that they got the ring. They do know that they got a championship. They do know about all those accolades that the team got. And that's what you buy into. Okay. Once again, I go back to the fact that the game has to be played socially, has to be played amongst each other. But if you try to go out there and be the All-American, it ain't going to happen. You know, unrecognizable teams have unrecognizable players, right? We've had players that were recognized as All-American that hit 285 because we were winning. You know, we've had players hit 480 that didn't get recognized because we weren't very good that year, right? So they have to understand that if you don't care who gets the credit, we're all going to be successful. And we got to be relentless, and we got to grind better than anybody else. And that's what we do from day one.
What's going to be the keys for the 2022 edition of the Bulls to be successful and accomplish your internal goals?
You know, that's really, really cool. So I actually, we don't ever go to goal orientation, okay? Because goal orientation is finite, right? Once you reach something, like, okay, we want to win the conference championship. Okay, when that's over, that's your goal. That's your first goal. And every other goal after that is ridiculous. So to me, we have dreams. And the dreams are to get to where we want to get back to. Okay, and that's down the road on I-80, I believe it is. I can't remember where it is exactly, but Oklahoma City. That's where you want to get to. So the dreams are to get there. And along the way, I want you to continue to dream about playing the game really, really well in the bottom of the seventh in the conference championship game. I want you to really think about playing the game really, really well in the bottom of the seventh of the game that gets you to the super regionals. I really, really want you to feel what's happening in the bottom of the seventh as we get to the College World Series. So those are the things we talk about. Those are the things we try to see, but we just actually think about trying to simplify it as best you can. If you can catch better than the other team, you can throw better than the other team, you got a shot. Okay. And it's on us. And so we're going to try to continue with that vein. But yeah, this team's got some special opportunities. If somebody asks me always at the beginning of the year, I always love this question because I'm a jerk when I answer it. But hey, what's the record going to be this year? Well, 56-0. Wow, come on, be realistic. What if you lose the first one? Then 55-1. But tell me the games you think we're going to lose. We won't show up, right? I mean, why do you play the game? You play the game to play the game well, and hopefully we end up on the good side more often than we do on the south side.
Well, we look forward to seeing your team play on the field and get going with a great tournament. You're going to host Michigan once again, and Florida's become a great traditional tournament there. Illinois State, Kansas City, who's a team that's on the Rise program there, part of a heavy slate of a home slate. You've got Ohio State, Purdue, and then really get you set, obviously, for the conference tournament. You're going to be at the ESPN Clearwater tournament. Very tricky, challenging schedule. Your thoughts on the schedule?
It's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, we want to see the best pitching we can in the country. That way, come down to the end of the year. Once again, we're not surprised. And I think you have to cultivate that one, So to us, we're going to try to get the best pitching we can, try to get the teams that sometimes you don't play the name game. When you hear certain teams like, oh, how good can it be? Well, why don't you check their pitching staff out? Because they're usually going to have one or two guys who can really chuck it, right? So that's what we want. But yeah, that first tournament, Eric, with Michigan and Florida, Illinois State, and UMKC. And the UMKC is coached by Kerry Shaw, former men's guy that knows what he's doing. And Carol Hutchins is on the verge of becoming the winningest coach in the NCAA this year. And we're hoping to honor her a little bit with all of her accomplishments that she's done. And then obviously we know about what Tim has done up at the University of Florida. He puts together one heck of a team every year. And then Illinois State by Hall of Fame coach Melinda Fisher. So yeah, I know it's a great weekend of softball, and we're glad it's always the opening weekend here.
Somebody needs to take a photo of all you head coaches together. That's a pretty good list of coaches there. They're going to be that weekend there.
Yeah, no, it will be, and I think there's a lot of respect amongst us all, and they're really, really great to work with because they have a clue of what's going on, and they understand how tough it is to put on these type of tournaments. So, but every one of them, they've got an open invite here every year, and I hope they continue to do so.
Well, we'll let you get set for that and get ready for that, Coach. But appreciate you taking the time from a busy schedule as always. Always appreciate you talking about softball and life in general. Congrats again on being inducted to the Hall of Fame up there. Well deserved in the Tampa area and everything you've done there for the South Florida and the university. Good luck this season, and I'm sure I'll run into you during the year.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate what you do and spread the word. The game's a great game, and you got a lot of young women right now that are coming up in the coaching ranks. And a lot of young players that are coming up through high school right now that the game continues to get better.